Every AI chip fabricated in 2026 requires 3 times more silver than the semiconductors from 5 years ago. Global AI chip production is projected to triple by 2028. Silver mine production has been flat for a decade. This is not a supply chain problem. This is a supply existence problem. If you want to understand commodity bottlenecks before they break markets, subscribe and join the conversation ahead of the curve. Here's what the market hasn't priced in yet. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the company that manufactures chips for Apple, Nvidia, AMD, Qualcomm, and nearly every other major tech firm, just released their 2027 fab expansion roadmap. Buried in the technical specifications on page 47 of a 200-page document that almost nobody read is a single line: silver consumption per advanced node wafer, plus 147% versus 2024 baseline. Let me translate that. Every cutting-edge chip rolling out of their factories in the next 2 years will consume nearly 50% more silver than current chips. Not 5%, not 15%, 47%. Now multiply that by the AI infrastructure build-out happening globally. Microsoft is building data centers across 3 continents to power Azure AI services. Google is doubling compute capacity to handle Gemini and Search AI integration. Amazon's AWS is expanding faster than at any point in company history to meet enterprise AI demand. Meta is building massive GPU clusters for Llama and metaverse applications. Tesla needs AI chips for full self-driving in millions of vehicles. China is racing to develop domestic AI chip independence through SMIC and other foundries, pouring hundreds of billions into semiconductor self-sufficiency. All of it requires silver, not as an optional component, not as something you can substitute with copper or aluminum or some miracle material that doesn't exist yet. Silver is irreplaceable in high-frequency, high-efficiency circuits because of its unmatched electrical conductivity. It has the lowest electrical resistance of any metal. It doesn't degrade under thermal stress. It performs consistently across temperature ranges. There is no Plan B material, and the amount of silver required scales exponentially with chip complexity. Let me explain why silver is the ghost in the machine that nobody talks about. In traditional semiconductor manufacturing, chips for smartphones, laptops, basic consumer electronics, silver is used in bonding wires, connectors, and some contact points. Important, but manageable. A smartphone might contain 0.015 grams of silver. In AI chips, especially those handling neural network processing, massive parallel computation, and high-throughput data operations, the architecture changes completely. You need higher conductivity to manage heat dissipation. AI chips run hot. They're processing billions of operations per second. Heat is the enemy. Silver conducts heat away from critical components better than any alternative. You need more connection points to handle data throughput. An AI training chip has exponentially more transistors, more interconnects, more pathways for data to flow. Every interconnect needs conductive material. Silver is optimal. You need materials that won't degrade under sustained high-performance loads. AI chips in data centers run 24/7 at maximum capacity for years. Cheaper materials corrode, fail, create resistance bottlenecks. Silver doesn't. It is the only metal that checks every box simultaneously, and the amount required scales exponentially with chip complexity. Let me give you numbers. A standard smartphone processor, what's in your iPhone or Samsung, might use 0.015 to 0.02 grams of silver. An AI training chip, like NVIDIA's H100 or the upcoming B200, can use up to 0.08 grams of silver per unit. That's 4 times more silver per chip. Now scale up. A single advanced server blade powering ChatGPT-style models contains multiple AI chips, circuit boards, connectors, and cooling systems. Total silver content, over 2 grams per blade. A single data center rack contains 4080 blades. That's 8,160 grams of silver per rack. A hyperscale data center contains tens of thousands of racks. Do the math. A single large AI data center can contain multiple tons of silver embedded in its infrastructure. Now consider that Google operates over 30 hyperscale data centers globally, and they're expanding. Microsoft has over 200 data centers and is building 50 to 100 more to meet AI demand. Amazon has over 100 data centers and is building aggressively. Meta, Oracle, Alibaba, Tencent, every major tech company is racing to build AI compute capacity. Multiply across every company, every facility, every expansion plan. The silver demand isn't linear, it's parabolic, and nobody outside the semiconductor supply chain is paying attention. Now here's where the math becomes terrifying. Global silver mine production in 2025 was approximately 26,000 tons. Of that, roughly 50%, about 13,000 tons, went to industrial applications. The other 50% went to jewelry, coins, bars, and investment demand. AI chip manufacturing currently consumes around 1,200 tons per year across all semiconductor fabs globally. But if chip production triples by 2028, which is the current industry projection, and each chip requires 47% more silver, you're looking at an additional 2,000 plus tons of annual demand from this sector alone. That's a 15% increase in total industrial silver demand from one technology category, one. Except industrial demand is already rising everywhere else simultaneously. Solar panels use silver paste in photovoltaic cells. Solar installation is accelerating globally. Silver demand from solar, plus 8% annually. Electric vehicle charging infrastructure uses silver in connectors, contactors, and power management systems. EV adoption is accelerating. Silver demand from EVs, plus 12% annually. 5G network expansion uses silver in antennas, circuit boards, and base station electronics. 5G rollout continues globally. Silver demand from telecom, plus 6% annually. Medical devices, RFID tags, antimicrobial coatings, LED lighting, every modern technology category is silver intensive. Every technological system designed to reduce carbon or increase efficiency requires more silver, not less. And none of these sectors are shrinking. They're all growing simultaneously. So you have demand growing across multiple verticals at the same time, all competing for a supply that hasn't increased in 10 years. Here's the supply side reality. Silver is not primarily mined as a standalone metal. About 70% of silver production comes as a byproduct of copper, lead, and zinc mining. That means silver supply is tied to the economics of other metals. If copper prices fall, copper mines slow production or shut down. Silver supply drops as a consequence, even if silver prices are high. Miners can't just produce more silver in response to demand. The geology doesn't work that way. New silver mines take 7 to 10 years to develop from discovery to production. Permitting is brutal. Environmental regulations are strict. Local opposition is common. Even if a company wanted to open a new primary silver mine today, it wouldn't produce meaningful output until 2032 at the earliest. The supply is structurally inelastic, and demand is exploding. This has happened before. In the 1960s, silver was used extensively in photography, film, developing chemicals, X-rays, industrial imaging. Demand was high but manageable. Silver prices stayed range-bound between $1.20 and $1.80 per ounce for most of the decade. Then two things happened simultaneously. Photography exploded globally as cameras became affordable consumer products. Kodak, Fujifilm, Polaroid, everyone needed silver. Demand doubled in 5 years, and industrial applications for silver expanded into electronics, aerospace, and defense contracting as the space race and Cold War drove technological innovation. Demand spiked. Supply couldn't respond. Mines take years to develop. Recycling infrastructure didn't exist yet. By 1980, silver hit $50 per ounce, a price that adjusted for inflation would be over $180 today. A 28x increase in 12 years. The people who recognized the supply-demand imbalance early, who bought silver in the late 1960s at $1.50, made generational wealth. The difference between then and now? In the 1960s, silver had substitutes. Kodak eventually shifted to digital photography. Other industries found workarounds using alternative materials. In 2026, AI chips have no substitute for silver. The laws of physics don't negotiate. Electrical conductivity is electrical conductivity. Silver is number one. There's no number two that comes close at scale. And the demand growth rate now is faster than it was then because AI adoption is accelerating faster than photography adoption did in the 1960s. We went from 0 to ChatGPT hitting 100 million users in 2 months. Photography took decades to reach that penetration. AI is being integrated into every business process, every consumer application, every aspect of modern life. And every AI interaction requires compute. Every compute operation requires chips. Every chip requires silver. The supply-demand imbalance is already here. The market just hasn't figured it out yet. Here's the irreversible dynamic that's already in motion. Tech companies don't care about silver prices the way commodity investors do. If silver goes from 20 A's to $50 per ounce, a near doubling, the cost per AI chip increases by maybe 3.5. For a $15,000 NVIDIA H100 AI training chip, that's 0.03% of the total cost, completely irrelevant. For a $25,000 server blade, the silver cost going from $50 to $100 is a rounding error. Apple, NVIDIA, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they will pay whatever it takes to secure supply. Price is not the constraint, availability is. And once these companies start stockpiling silver to guarantee supply chain security, which is already happening quietly through long-term supply agreements with refiners, the available market inventory vanishes. We've already seen this pattern with other critical materials. Lithium prices exploded from $6,000 per ton to $80,000 per ton when EV manufacturers started securing long-term offtake agreements directly with mines. They weren't speculating, they were guaranteeing supply, but the effect on market price was the same: vertical explosion. Cobalt became a geopolitical weapon when battery producers realized they couldn't rely on spot markets dominated by a single country, Democratic Republic of Congo. Prices quintupled. Supply chains fragmented, companies started building strategic reserves. Silver is next, and unlike lithium or cobalt, silver has an additional demand layer that those metals don't: investment demand. When investors realize the same metal they can buy as bars and coins is the bottleneck for the most important technology of the decade, capital will flood in. Retail investors will stack silver. Hedge funds will take futures positions and demand delivery. ETFs will see inflows that force them to buy physical metal. The available float, the actual silver available for purchase in the market, will collapse. And when float collapses in a commodity market, price doesn't adjust gradually. It gaps, it spikes, it goes vertical. So what does this mean for you? If you own silver, physical silver, not paper contracts or unallocated accounts, you own a piece of infrastructure that every major technology company in the world needs and cannot replace. You are not speculating on price. You are holding a strategic commodity in a supply deficit that worsens every quarter. If you don't own silver, you are underweight the single most critical industrial metal of the AI era. Let me frame this differently. 2 years ago, if someone asked, what's the most important commodity for the future? Most people would say lithium, cobalt, rare earths, battery metals for the EV transition, and they were partially right. Those metals matter, but silver? Silver was seen as a poor man's gold, a secondary inflation hedge for people who couldn't afford gold, a legacy monetary metal with some industrial uses. Today, silver is the feedstock for the trillion-dollar AI arms race. That's not a narrative change. That's a fundamental revaluation of the asset's role in the global economy, and the investors who understand this early are building positions while silver is still available at prices that make no sense relative to its strategic importance. Think about the psychological shift happening right now. Tech executives are realizing they have a silver problem. Supply chain managers are flagging silver as a critical bottleneck risk in 2026 to 2028 planning documents. Semiconductor fabs are negotiating multi-year silver supply agreements with refiners at fixed prices to guarantee availability. This is happening quietly. No press releases, no announcements, just purchase orders and contracts being signed behind closed doors. But the effect is the same. Available silver is being locked up. And when the market realizes what's happening, when a major tech company publicly warns about silver supply constraints, when analysts start publishing reports on the AI silver bottleneck, when CNBC runs a segment titled The Silver Shortage, the price will already reflect scarcity. You will be buying at $60, $80, $100 per ounce. Right now, you can still buy at $28. That spread is the opportunity. Let's talk about who's already moving. Tech companies are quietly negotiating long-term silver supply agreements with mining companies and refiners. These contracts are not public, they're commercially sensitive, but industry insiders confirm they're happening at scale. Apple has supply agreements with multiple Asian refiners guaranteeing silver delivery for the next 3 years. NVIDIA is securing silver through their foundry partners, TSMC, Samsung, who are signing their own supply deals. These aren't spot market purchases. These are take-or-pay contracts. We'll buy X tons per year at Y price guaranteed, no matter what the market does. That removes silver from the open market permanently. Hedge funds focused on commodities are accumulating silver futures and taking physical delivery, a highly unusual move that signals they expect spot shortages. Normally, futures are rolled or cash settled. Taking delivery is expensive and logistically complex, but funds like Sprott, Crescent Capital, and others are doing it anyway because they believe physical silver will trade at a massive premium to paper silver within 24 months. Even sovereign wealth funds, entities that normally don't touch commodities, are increasing metals exposure. Not just gold, but silver specifically. Why? Because they understand the industrial transition underway. They've seen lithium go from 6K to 80K per ton. They've seen cobalt quintuple. They've seen nickel spike 250% in a single week when supply got tight. They know what happens when a critical industrial metal hits a supply wall, and they're positioning in silver before it happens. And then there's retail. The Wall Street silver community on Reddit, over 300,000 investors coordinating silver purchases, has removed millions of ounces from the market in the last 3 years. They're not selling, they're stacking. Every paycheck, more silver. Every bonus, more silver. They understand the thesis. Silver is money, plus silver is industrial, plus supply is limited, price goes much higher. Every ounce they buy is one less ounce available for industry, for ETFs, for late arriving institutional capital. The float is disappearing in real time. Here's the clarity moment. You are watching a commodity transition from abundant to scarce in real time. Not because of speculation, not because of hype, not because of a short squeeze or a Reddit pump. Because the technology defining the next decade requires it in quantities the market cannot supply. And once that supply deficit becomes undeniable, once chip manufacturers start publicly warning about silver availability, once prices spike and make headlines, once governments start discussing strategic silver reserves, the opportunity to position will be gone. You will be buying at prices that reflect scarcity, not strategic accumulation. The investors who build wealth in these transitions are not the ones who wait for confirmation. They're the ones who see the math, trust the fundamentals, and act while everyone else is still debating whether it's real. Let me give you the math one more time, clearly. AI chip demand tripling by 2028. Silver per chip up 47%. Annual mine supply flat for a decade. Industrial demand from other sectors growing 6 to 12% annually. Investment demand accelerating as thesis spreads. That equation has one outcome: much higher prices. Not maybe, not probably, inevitably. The only variable is timing, and timing depends on when the market wakes up. So here's your move. You start building a position in physical silver: coins, bars, allocated storage, whatever structure gives you actual ownership. Not SLV, the ETF, not unallocated accounts at a bank, physical metal in your possession, or an allocated storage with your name on specific bars. You ignore the analysts still talking about silver as just an inflation hedge. That's the old narrative, and it's incomplete. The new narrative is silver is the bottleneck for AI, 5G, EVs, solar, and every other technology defining the 21st century, and the supply crisis is already here. Start with 5 to 10% of your portfolio if you're conservative, 15 to 20% if you understand the thesis and believe the math. Buy consistently, don't try to time it. Dollar cost average over 6 to 12 months. Prioritize recognizable coins: American Silver Eagles, Canadian Maple Leafs, Austrian Philharmonics. These have the tightest bid-ask spreads and highest liquidity. For larger positions, consider 100-ounce bars or 1,000-ounce commercial bars stored in allocated vaults. And you hold through the noise. Silver is volatile. It will swing 5 to 10% in a week sometimes. You will question the thesis. You will wonder if you made a mistake. You didn't. The fundamentals haven't changed. The supply deficit is real. The demand growth is real. What's changed is market sentiment, which is irrelevant to the underlying physical reality. When tech companies are paying $100 per ounce for guaranteed delivery in 2027 and you bought at $28 in 2026, you'll understand why holding through volatility was the right move. Every AI chip fabricated this year requires 3 times more silver than chips from 5 years ago. AI chip production is tripling by 2028. Mine supply is flat. The math is simple. The outcome is inevitable. Tech companies will pay whatever it takes to get the silver they need. Investors who understand this will buy whatever they can before the market figures it out. And the people who waited for confirmation, who wanted more proof, who needed the media to tell them it was real, they'll be buying at prices that already reflect the shortage, at $60, at $80, at $120 per ounce, while the people who bought at $28 are sitting on 3x, 4x, 5x returns. Not because they got lucky, because they saw the supply-demand imbalance before everyone else did. The information is public. The data is available, the thesis is clear, AI needs silver, silver supply is limited, the gap is widening. The only question is whether you're positioned before the market prices it in or after. Every day you wait, more silver disappears into long-term supply contracts, sovereign reserves, and private hands. The opportunity is now. The question is, will you take it?